Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Energy News Beat podcast. I'm having a really fun day today, and I get to talk to Adam Jordan again with Enverus. He is the director over there at Enverus, and he is covering the managing director of intelligence. And so I'm not sure if that means he's intelligent or if he is intelligent, but I need to share with my listeners before I really introduce it and turn him over here. I had to confess my sins because I was recording a live podcast with Adam at the Enverus Evolve event, and we had a great talk. And I'm an idiot. And my producers and production team will never let me go on site again because my sound picked up the entire event. So, Adam, thank you for letting us re-record this, and I am so happy to get to see you again.
Well, I'm happy to chat again, and as we were just talking about, that to recapture some of that, and there's a couple things that since we spoke that have really started to resonate. So looking forward to picking up where we left off, and well, you know what, let's let some other people in on it this time too.
Okay. But anyway, tell us a little bit about what you do as the director of intelligence for Enverus.
Sure. So on the intelligence part of power and renewables for Enverus, we're like the research skunkworks part of the company. and we
have a black was it a black SR-71 Blackbird and everything else?
Would have been a hell of a lot easier to get to evolve if I did, but that's I wish, but it's really not a wild thing to say that we are looking at stories that break. We're looking at how these influences in the market are shaping what happens. So like solar tariffs, emerging technology, just all of these wild things that are happening, whether it's from a regulatory side or whether it's from a market side. How does all that fit in, and then how do we turn that into data that then ultimately feeds it back into something that our clients can use? Because headlines are easy,
Well, I'm going to ask something because I understand from the news perspective, Adam. There's a lot of crap out there when you're trying to pick apart the feed and you find the information and disseminate, because you and I drink from a fire hose at that point. There is so much stuff about policy, about renewables and everything else. How do you figure out what's valuable to your customers? That's the key right there.
I follow the money.
Okay, solve the problem there. I'm glad I understand now.
Yeah, if it were only that easy,
right? It's not.
No, and that's not just to say that this is like a profiteering, purely Adam Smith capitalistic thing,
right?
But the way that markets are designed, the way that tax credits are designed, the way that a lot of incentives are built, it's all dollars and cents. So I think that's important to keep in mind. And it's not evil,
right?
Usually. But it's
unless you're dumping $80 million, $800 million into Ukraine, who knows?
I'm not ready to go there.
No, I'm not either. Okay. I just thought it was having speaking of policies, we'll leave all that alone. So
sure, yeah, that I've spent more on less or something.
Yeah, like that. I don't know. Wow. So, as the Enverus, you heard me say this several times, and that is, if you're going to make a decision in the energy world, you're going to need to make it with data. And if you need data, go to Enverus. And I mean, I am such an Enverus fan. It is data, and you make decisions with data. But on the renewable side and everything else, what is the trend that you're seeing with the renewable side?
Renewables, well, first of all, it's creating or finding data is one of the challenges. But and that's what we're doing, like just through the companies that Enverus has acquired, or the way that we're approaching our roadmap. But in terms of trends, there are supply chain is one of them, and it's the market forces. It's so who will foot the bill for energy transition?
Right.
Can we get the solar panels to do it? Can we get
there's a bunch of stuff in the news on that right now, Adam.
That's very timely. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's kind of a reconciliation of all the things that we want to do and that makes us feel good and is important, don't get me wrong, versus if there's a real cost to it, and who's going to pay for that?
Right.
So
the consumers.
Yes, you and I, as someone who's paying to turn on our webcams here or whatever it might be, flipping the switch on our ring flashes or whatever it might be. That's a real story, and like that's coming. And I think in an increasing price environment, whether it's through good old fashioned inflation, commodity prices, geopolitics, it's really accelerating real quick.
Right.
That they're so anyway.
It's something that's sad is because people are going to have to pick. Do I air condition? Do I buy gas to go to work, or do I buy food? And this is going to be tough.
The idea that's even a conversation is,
it's
not so pleasant.
No, and I'm a big advocate for helping the homeless and those the disproportionately impacted communities is where I've got a really strong heart for. And it seems like they always get it in the drive-through, in the disproportionately impacted community, because they don't have a say in the energy policies.
No. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, it irritates me that sometimes energy policies come around without thinking about the less fortunate. And it just is like, come on, guys, let's have a little bit of a forward thought, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, because when you are a large utility and you set the rate for power, it's you don't get to say these people pay this or this community pays that. It's
right.
The idea that like a rising tide floats all boats is not true at all in the energy space. And it's tricky because I think everyone tends to agree that we want to change the way that we produce energy. But like the things we just mentioned are really accelerating the conversation around, like, it's the way that we are able to change that varies a lot. There's a lot more variability in that than the way that we feel.
Right. As you take a look at the cost per kilowatt hour, and I was talking to some folks over at the coalition, Carbon Neutral Coalition for Texas, good peoples. And I'm really like the way that Chuck over there phrases it and said, it's not a matter of whatever it is. It's let's reduce our carbon footprint and go to carbon neutral and provide the best solution using fossil fuels or wind or solar or nuclear. It doesn't matter. Let's just do the best we can. I like that kind of a philosophy. Let's take care of carbon neutral.
Oh, well, I mean, that sounds very reasonable. So that won't make any headlines.
Spoken like a true intelligence person.
Yeah. No, but like that's a very good and reasonable way to look at this. Like we just need to move in the right direction. And whether that's mean, I can just see it now that if we think about solar, again, we kind of mentioned the tariffs, there's a lot of headwinds for solar. And I can see the headlines now in two different newspapers. One says, market forces are preventing solar development as we thought. And the other one is, we're moving the goalposts, saying that solar is coming later because of what I don't know.
Yeah. But I think we talked about the fact that the Biden administration put into the infrastructure bill originally that natural gas was now accepted for renewable funding because they realized we need natural gas in order to get there.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a softening to the anti-natural gas stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly the reasonable approach that I think we all need to understand is like,
right.
I think there was not too long ago, natural gas was viewed as like a transition fuel.
Right.
It's not, it's the fuel. Like it's
right.
a huge part of keeping the lights on, security, keeping prices at things that we want to pay.
Right.
So whether or not it's renewable or how you kind of account for it, I don't know. That again, I think that kind of comes back to headlines.
Right.
But there's no denying that the gas is a big part of our future.
As if I'm Alan or any of the other senior managers at Enverus, when they take a look at Adam, how do you express value to your clients? Because there's so many different divisions within Enverus. And, when you take a look at the market intelligence, and because I'm teeing this up for you, because you guys do such a great job. So tell us how you impact your clients.
It's about saying something actionable. It's
oh, I like that. I'm going to take that from you. That's good.
no, I said that. You can't.
Oh, I can't.
No, but it's true, and that's it's a huge challenge though, because it's easy to look at what's going on in the world and say
something actionable. Adam, I really like that.
But to put some meat behind that, to put some so what does that mean?
Right.
So it would be easy to say that prices are going up in the next
week,
day, year, 17 seconds. But what's your strategy? Like what's your exposure to that? How do you mitigate your risk or take advantage of the way that things are trending?
Oh, so cool.
That's what we're after here. And we'll be successful if we can answer that question.
Holy smokes, will you really be successful if you can do that?
And I'm still here, so I think we are to a certain extent, but let's see.
Yeah, we're still here this week. I may have to fire myself after this podcast if I do something stupid again.
Well, you hit record this time, right?
I am watching it right now. I had so much fun at the Enverus Evolve conference. And I just want to say that it was great to see everybody again in person. Like I got to see John. I'd worked with John for years, but I'd never met him in person. COVID hits and there's 2 years. I got to see Sergio Chapa from Bloomberg there. And I mean, it was then meeting Mark LaCour over from the Oil and Gas Network. And it is cool. And then all the other Enverus folks that we got to see. Tell me what your thoughts were about the Evolve conference.
It was so good to just, I was even, as you were saying that, excuse me, the way that we are chatting,
right,
probably wouldn't be like this if we hadn't at least, sat across the table from each other and said hello.
Right.
The way that it changes the relationship, the way that you can tease out something
right.
From that face-to-face interaction. And I was so thrilled and surprised, really, to go into a power and renewables session and see that like good amount of the attendees were kind of oil and gas crew.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, and I remember when we chat, I'm a power guy, like, and no, and there's no such thing as that anymore. And I think that this conference really drove that home for me, that you got to understand all of the other energy commodities to be good in your own, the way that you kind of think of like in your own space.
That's very insightful, Adam. I do like that.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to compliment you. Sorry.
No, I don't know. I've been to quite a few. I don't know. I don't know how I don't sound biased, but I thought it was really good.
That is good, and it's not a lot that I have learned even in the last week. It is really neat to be able to say, let's have a discussion on all sides, and that makes it very humorous when you sit back and say, let's just all, why can't we get along, or why can't we just talk? We won't go there or anything on that line, but it is neat, and educating people, finding who can educate. So is any part of your job educating people?
Sure. Yeah. I think what we're writing right now about battery energy storage, again, focused in ERCOT, is educating a lot of people that you share it with companies who are involved in storage, and they're like, yeah, we know. But there's a huge cohort of people that don't understand how things are going to change for batteries in 18 months. Some of the rest of our team looking at carbon capture, renewable natural gas, or responsibly sourced natural gas. There's a huge component of education that it just awareness is valuable. And then what does that mean? So if we have 5% hydrogen in the pipe 10 years from now, what does that mean for power plants, for infrastructure? Just, you can slice and dice however you like. It's but those hypotheticals are not so hypothetical, it feels.
No. And I was doing some research this week, and I noticed that over the last 5 years, fossil fuels, and more specifically natural gas, was between 78 and 79% of the, used for electrical generation in the US, whatever. I mean, something like that. And that renewables popped up from 11% to 16%. And you're going, well, why would fossil fuels remain at that flat, but yet you'd see this big increase in renewables? It's because we need more power.
Yeah.
It's not that it's taking market share, it's that we're needing more power. How much more power? And don't you think the grid is going to get waxed? I don't think the grid's ready. Do you?
Do you have another
That's
hour?
A loaded question.
Yeah, like just thinking, so the grid will be ready. It's not today. Like, just think about that future state.
Right.
And the grid also gets back to that price, the pain, because to charge for or to upgrade the grid,
where's that cost come from?
That's coming in your energy bill, but it's not in your kilowatt hour part.
Okay.
That's in your delivery, transmission, distribution part of your bill. So anyway, the grids are relatively well looked after in terms of reliability. We had the little terrible moment in Texas.
Well, there are the three grids, east, west, and ERCOT.
So sorry, just not to go off on a tangent here. So reliability is the mandate of these organizations.
Right.
So it's a little bit doom and gloom to say that the grids are not ready, but they need to evolve. They need to change for the future that we all want.
Okay.
And that's going to cost a ton of money. So
Ooh.
seeing that there's $7-10 billion, whatever it might be, in the Build Back Better plan, I mean, it's going to build maybe 7-10 miles of transmission.
Right.
Ain't going to cut
it. There's about two or three. I think I disturbed your thought process when we were talking about. See, I had a senior moment again. Hey, I was just reading on the
disturbing my thought process isn't exactly hard to do.
Yeah, we had too much fun at in Houston. I was reading an article about the transmission lines from Canada to, I believe, Maine or a northern state.
Yeah, New England.
New England, and they just canceled it. Do you know much about that one?
Yeah, and this is a case of weighing what you're willing to pay, what you're willing to, I guess, sacrifice versus the alternatives. So,
this is the one with the hydroelectric,
HydroQuebec.
HydroQuebec, and they were going to bring. It's the biggest subterranean water turbine that is there, and they're trying to get that area from the U.S. But all the U.S. and a lot of miles are already built, sitting there, with the thing, and then the public is saying we don't want to send our money to Canada.
Yeah, there's a lot of different forces at play. So the and actually paying our Canadian family to the north is to me, like, we'll get to that part. It's we don't want to disrupt any environment. We don't want, and it's just
okay. I'm going to sound a little bit moronic here from Texas. It's hydro. I'm a big believer in hydro. I love me some hydro. I don't mind paying anything trading with Mexico or Canada. I think it's great. We're neighbors. Let's trade. And the more electricity we can buy from Canada, it's oil that we don't buy from Russia or Iran or Iraq or anybody else. So I'm all in. I didn't understand that attitude. A, it's green. Yep. B, it's our neighbor. And I didn't understand the third.
It's the NIMBYs, the not in my backyard crowd, because because Quebec is so rich in hydropower, we just are tapped on transmission to get it into the United States. So you need to build a new high voltage DC transmission line.
Right.
And that sounds terrible to the stakeholders in New England. And to me, that's kind of wild, because I'd rather risk disrupting a little bit of, like, yes, there's an environmental impact for everything.
Right.
But I'd sure as hell rather have another transmission line running through my backyard than a natural gas plant or a natural gas pipeline, for that matter. That's a whole nother ball of wax.
And wind farm that kills bazillions of birds. I mean, I'd rather have a transmission line than that.
Nothing is free, but a transmission line would be, to me, the lowest impact way to get more power, more responsibly renewable, green, pick your buzzword, power into New England.
But we could go on my opinions on that with New England, when they're importing LNG from Russia, and they won't even allow pipelines from Pennsylvania, and they import LNG from Norway and Trinidad or something.
Yeah, I mean, I live out just outside of Boston, so I'm a ratepayer who's footing the bill for the energy transition here in New England. So we gotta.
And the kilowatt per hour in some of those areas, it's like even California is number 3. the other top two are in your area for the kilowatt per hour, and it's because you're having to import it, and you got a pipeline 1 day drive to Pennsylvania into some of the best natural gas fields in the world.
Well, but it's got to flow, but all of that gas has to flow south to go north. Like it's got to go down and feed into Algonquin and Tennessee and Iroquois. Like it's, you can't get there from here, as they say. Here down
the LNG regasification, I believe it's in Boston. There's a big regasification plant there.
There's 3 facilities here in New England. There's the Everett Terminal, Northeast Gateway, and then Neptune. Again, getting back to geopolitics, it'll be things would have to get, my opinion, prices would have to get pretty wild before we get a cargo again. Because all of that LNG is going to be going to Europe, to Asia, just because it's straight economics.
Isn't that why New England's paying more? Because you're having to pay on European standards of pricing as opposed to US based? I don't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of. It's like in the winter, we'll see, because it's just, again, that pure raw economics is that the price will rise to a point where someone's saying, all right, we'll move our ship from Trinidad to Boston instead of Trinidad to Denmark or wherever.
I've never seen this.
That's some tricky accounting.
I've never seen this before. Not long ago, when they had a LNG carrier about ready to drop off LNG in Hawaii, and they stopped it and ran it back through the Panama Canal and off to Europe again. Think about the transmission cost, transportation cost of that load.
Isn't that wild?
That it is crazy.
Yeah.
So what do you see coming around the corner for your department? What do you see that you guys are really picking up in your next group of things?
So a few things. So first of all, we're continuing to look at battery energy storage and how those markets are evolving, because the economics for that are changing by region really quickly. And then it's jumping into supply chain, jumping into geopolitics to understand, like, what does the renewable landscape look like in just really 2 or 3 years?
Right.
Do we really expect that wind and or solar kind of grow by that 10 to 14 gigs per year?
Right.
The economics suggest that they will, but there's a ton of other things in play. So, excuse me. That's kind of where our head's at, and we're also working on forecasting beyond that period as well.
Okay.
But I think really our the biggest call to action that we've had is understanding how does the pace of wind and solar in particular change, and what does that mean for conventional generators? Like there's a fairly large bankruptcy announced just within the last couple days here, which to me was kind of surprising, because it was it's out there, Talon. Rising natural gas prices should be good for a gas-fired generator, and they went bankrupt. So what's up with that? So that's the conventional generators. There's going to be some plants that look a heck of a lot better, and there are going to be some plants that I could think of a couple that I won't mention, that are going to be challenged. Kind of like, hey,
right. Well, in the UK and as well as the EU, there were a ton of power companies that went out of business. And it's because their power had quadrupled as far as coal prices, as well as their gas prices. And they could not pass it on enough to even think about paying for it. And it's for like the poor folks in ERCOT in Texas when they got a bill and it was like thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean,
Yeah.
It's like, all of a sudden you're just having a problem. We are so blessed in the U.S. to have a more stable energy sources everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about, because if you think about you sell power and the price for power goes up, you should be feeling good, right?
Right.
Well,
No.
not always. So
No.
it's identifying those companies, identifying those power plants that are structured in a way. When did they refinance? This happened. There was kind of a wave of this that happened the last time that natural gas prices were really high. A number of power plants did the refinancing, assuming that power prices were going to be this.
Right.
Then 5 years later, you got to pay your debt, and it's this. And then all of a sudden, you get a new name, you get a new business card, you get a new name on the door.
That's something a lot of folks don't really get, because even like in the when you're talking about gas at the pump, the oil majors don't make gas. I mean, they may make it, but they don't determine the price at the pump. They determine the price downstream, and then they don't even determine the price because it's a worldwide market.
Yeah. I like looking at the RBOB contract and putting my dollars to someone's about 70 cents above RBOB. It's like, that's a pretty fair price.
I just sold my Ford 250 a couple of years ago. I'm now in my other SUV. I'm paying $100 to load it up. I'm only afraid to see what my bill would have been to load up the 250.
And that just comes back to that's around that same time where natural gas prices, oil prices were also still so high, kind of in that shale 1.0, right, that the demand for SUVs and trucks went away. And so is this idea, like, what does demand destruction look like?
Right.
And these conversations are where it begins. So,
right. Arena Slab put out this morning an article on the cars in Europe, and a Volkswagen Jetta that normally goes for $16,000 is now going for 23. And so you sit back and kind of go, whoa, here's something that somebody can afford. And there is no used car market now. No. And I think we're going to see that in the US as well.
Well, that's already, I just anecdotally and seen things that the used car market here is, like you can buy like a 1992 Geo, whatever, for as much as you could a 19 or a 2015 Hummer. I don't know, but so
it almost seems like this is going to really hurt the migration to EVs, which because you're going to be paying more energy to recharge them. You're not going to be able to get them because of the shortage of rare earths and critical minerals. This is almost turning into, this ain't going anywhere.
Well, I'm not quite sure that. I guess I kind of have a different view there, where the last time we had really high like gasoline prices, fuel prices, right, we did see even legislation calling for higher mileage standards across product lines, and so there is still a premium price to be paid for an electric vehicle.
Right.
But I think that that sounds more attractive right now. And there's a couple things in play here. Like, so your electric bill might be going up, right, but when your price at the pump has in some cases doubled in a year,
right,
and your electricity price has gone up, I don't know, 10%.
10%.
Completely depends. Sure.
Yeah.
It's like, that it may be short-sighted in some cases. Say, well, shoot, I'd rather have my electric bill go up by a little bit and never go to the gas station again. So it's you know, I think there's still a really good, and perhaps if the more that gasoline price goes up, you know, that should drive up the we've shown that it increases the demand for electric vehicles.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm not crazy. There's a bug.
Oh, I don't know. After meeting you in person, I'm just taking this in stride. You know, I'm not going to give you a defense mechanism on that bad dog.
Yeah. No, so the EV part is interesting because the cost of an EV is very sensitive to the supply chain things,
right.
Just delays, and the components. So it's
right.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's really fun to hear your opinions on these things, that it is a education process for everybody. And that's kind of cool about your job.
I love it.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Adam, I'm looking forward to having you again on the podcast. And at the next Enverus Involve, I sure hope we're invited back. I'll make sure my production crew is there.
Yeah.
So that we don't embarrass anybody by not having the right equipment on there.
Hey, you told on yourself. No one had to know. So
you know, either that or my wife will. So, you know, it's like, hey.
No. I love talking about this stuff. And you know, when we were down there, I said, do we get any sneak peeks as to what we're going to be talking about? And you hit the record button.
Yep. And anyway, well, I really appreciate you for stopping by the podcast, and we will see you soon.
All right. Thanks so much.